Let's check in with Greg Palast, the investigative journalist, author, filmmaker. His new documentary, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, is newly edited and just re-released over at, I believe it's Amazon.com. We'll check with Greg, his website, gregpalast.com, and you can tweet him at Greg_Palast, just like I'm Thom_Hartmann. Greg, welcome back.
Glad to be with you, Tom. Happy New Year.
It's always great having you, Greg. So the movie is recently updated. Am I right on that?
Yes, because our lives have been updated, unfortunately. So now I have to deal with America 2.0 under Trump. So the film, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, warned you that Trump was going to win. And by the way, I want to mention, Tom, I remember sitting in your houseboat and you're saying, Trump's got it locked. Trump's got it locked. And so I said, yeah, you and I are the only people who haven't bought our party dress for Hillary's inauguration. So unfortunately, we were right. But then I had to update the film from a warning to saying exactly how the Donald swiped Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and other key swing states. You'll get the info. It's out this week, just as of yesterday on Amazon and free on Amazon Prime, if you got that shtick. And and of course it has Kris Kobach, who was the star of our film. We told you about this guy, and did you pay attention? Well, yeah, if you listen to Thom Hartmann, but he's updated, unfortunately, too. Yeah. So, well, rather than tease people, let's just tell them, you know, what's the deal with Kris Kobach, the so-called Voter Fraud Commission, where they locked out the Democrats. They wouldn't allow them to even look at the paperwork, much less attend the meetings. And now they're trying to hide everything from the Democrats and from the press. What the heck is going on here with these guys? And you know, what's the status of Kobach right now, and et cetera? Kris Kobach of Kansas, KKK, who's stars in Best Democracy Money Can Buy. You know, when I jumped him, he was the Secretary of State of Kansas, still is, and also CEO of the Interstate cross-check program, hunting down those 3 million double voters that don't exist, but removed enough voters to swing the states. And by the way, that was critical in the Virginia House races, which supposedly were decided by a flip of a coin. In fact, if you let everyone vote in Virginia and they weren't in cross-check, it'd be a Democratic state in the state house. How
many legitimate voters were purged from the Virginia voting rolls before this last election?
About 38,000 in Virginia. 38,000. This is not a purple state. This is a Democratic state if you let people vote. But anyway, Kris Kobach, who's behind all this, you know, funky monkey playing with the voter rolls, he was put in charge of the so-called what was known as the Vote Fraud Commission, or the Presidential Commission on Election Integrity. And because he was trying to keep it all secret, which is, by the way, Chris, since you're a lawyer and you got your law degree from Harvard, you might want to take note that in America we have open government, and he tried to keep everything secret. So he faced 11 lawsuits, including by the single Democratic member of his commission, who was actually quite sympathetic to the guy originally. And so to hide from the lawsuits and hide the work of the commission, they folded it. And I know a lot of progressives take that as a win, and I do, because they do realize that they've got to hide. They did have to fold tent in public. But then they snuck the operation into Homeland Security, where Kris Kobach believes they're safe from freedom of information requests, they're safe from lawsuits, and they can do their business in the Homeland Security darkness.
Because Homeland Security has the ability to classify things, and Homeland Security also has police powers.
Yeah, and this is one thing that, you know, when Kobach met with Donald Trump at Trump Tower, I don't know whether it was before or after the Russians, where they were in the lobby, but when he was meeting with Trump in January, he had a memo in his hand, which we were able to read bits of and get bits of through freedom of information. And his original idea was not a commission, a public commission. His original idea was using Homeland Security's powers to do, among other things, hunt for so-called alien voters, using the, as you say, the police powers of Homeland Security to demand and require that every state turn over their voter rolls to Kris Kobach at Homeland Security or his designee, and they would use those voter rolls to hunt for illegal aliens on our voter rolls. Now, if there are illegal aliens on our voter rolls, Yeah, they shouldn't be there. They should be arrested and deported. The problem is that from our cross-check experience and our prior experience with the feds hunting for alien voters, is that they simply look for people named Jose Rodriguez. They've deported a guy named Jose Rodriguez back to Salvador, and then they find a Jose Rodriguez, believe it or not, on the voter rolls of Florida, on the voter rolls of California, on the voter rolls of Texas. And they say, aha, this must be the same Jose Rodriguez we deported who's now voting in 3 states. He swung back to vote in 3 states, as opposed to saying, well, Jose Rodriguez is a common name. This is the dangerous thing that they intend to be doing through Homeland Security, as well as doubling down on the interstate cross-check double voter con. So being in Homeland Security is dangerous stuff. But I got news for you, Mr. Kobach. I just spoke with Jeannie Meyer, a great attorney who's working with me now. And she said, you know, you can go into you can call something Homeland Security. That doesn't mean that it isn't a public document if it's just a phony cover. You can't call something a fight against terrorism when it's really about partisan purging and racist purging of the voter rolls.
And the weird reality that makes all this so easy for Kobach, correct me if I'm wrong, is that among Hispanics and African Americans, the diversity of names is nowhere near as great as it is among Caucasians. Caucasians coming from dozens of different countries, speaking dozens of different languages.
Yeah.
African Americans and Asians having very different experiences, but the consequence of both those experiences and Hispanics having a much smaller variety of names. So if you're just looking for common names and purging them on the assumption that Joe Smith in Michigan is the same as Joe Smith in Florida, it's more likely that it's going to be Jose Rodriguez that you're going to go after than Joe Smith. There's not that many Joe Smiths.
Well, the thing is, according to the census, 85 of the 100 most common last names in America are minority names like Washington, Rodriguez, Wong, Lee. And so, for example, like you say, the history of slavery is that a lot of people took on the slave names or presidential names, Jefferson, Washington, et cetera. And so if you're going to be hunting down guys named Joe Washington, you're going to get an awful lot of black folk. And if like in the cross-check list, we saw 538 guys named James Brown who were tagged as double voters because, believe it or not, they found in Georgia alone, believe it or not, they found a James Brown in Motown in Detroit. And by the way, they don't care if the middle name is different, if the address is different, if the age is different. And in most cases, they even have the last 4 numbers of Social Security and they don't match. That doesn't matter to them at all. They're going after these voters and they can't do it in public anymore. They have to do it in secret. And right now, this month in January, you had an awful lot of governors saying that they weren't going to turn over those voter rolls to Kris Kobach in Washington, but they're beginning to turn them over to him at his offices in Kansas this month for an interstate cross-check purge operation. We're trying to get Terry McAuliffe right now, his last 2 weeks in office. Governor McAuliffe, it's your chance to remove the last Democratic state still in cross-check, Virginia, and get it out of cross-check. That would be a great gift. Terry McAuliffe stood up for African-American voters very strongly, and this would be a great gift to the state of Virginia. And then we have to go after those other states which have been gutless and giving their list to Kobach.
Yeah, or complicit, as the case may be. Greg Palast, it is always great talking with you, my friend. You're doing some of the most brilliant work out there. GregPalast.com is the website. You can tweet him at Greg_Palast. Greg, thank you for being with us.
You're the best, Tom. Thanks.
Keep up the great work. We'll be back.